writing a book. No. How to start to learn tango. Most people who come to learn tango first appreciate it, but then are confronted with the ability to want to dance it, and they're confronted with the fact that it's not that easy to learn. The interesting thing about that is that you can apply what I've just said to every dance that's there, except for these ridiculous dances like, you know, the bachata, and to a certain extent the salsas of today. My point is that social dances are first and foremost dances. Dances. So you must know how to dance. Some people hear this and then they say to themselves, well, I don't know how to dance. I mean, only people who've gone to dance school know how to dance. This could be one of the bigger lies ever propagated. This is like saying that, you know, unless you've gotten a university degree, you can't be a cashier at McDonald's. Or you can't run a business. These are such lies. So we have to take these lies and destroy them and confront them with a bit of truth. Shed a little light of truth on them. To learn tango, you must learn to dance as an individual. What does that mean? What is it that you can learn individually? Well, first and foremost are the axes. You have to learn to assume an axis. You have to learn how to assume an axis on one foot and then on another. Obviously, I've got many videos, not many videos, but I mean, I can talk at length about what an axis is, but the essence of it is that you are able to stand on one foot for an extended period of time, not just, you know, raise the other foot and you kind of keel over, boom. No, you lift it and everything holds. And you could put it back down and everything holds. You can raise it. The foot that is on the ground sustaining your weight is truly sustaining all of your weight. That is an axis. That is one of the harder things to learn. An axis is a function of an alignment of plates. So in order to learn the axis in dance, you have to learn how to align your plates. Now, you have many years of bad habits, which today are influencing the current position of your plates. I say you. Let me take that all back. We all have many years of bad habits and wear and tear, where the plates of our body are, in fact, misaligned. What do I mean by plates? I've reviewed this somewhere else, I'm sure. We can imagine three plates, one stacked above the other, same plates. And we could take one of the plates, say the middle one, and skew it off. Well, that would be like moving your shoulders. That's one plate. The plate of your shoulders. And keeping the plate of your head, you know, tilted another way. We can tilt those three plates in three different ways. To obtain an axis, we have to imagine that each one of these plates has a hole in the middle, in the perfect center of it. And that when the plates are aligned, the hole in the middle follows right through. That is an alignment of plates. And I say plates because I'm borrowing it from a French term, assiette. Une assiette. And the French term comes from stability, you know. Somebody who's not in their assiette in French is somebody who's not feeling very well, is not stable. Anyway, the point now is that once you have learned to align those plates, you're well on your way to mastering an axis and then the other, and then you'll see that there's a third axis in tango, the one in between the two, and it's quite particular and very, very important to master. And then after that, you know, you have to strive to do all this with a person in front of you. I say after that. Of course, nobody can ever want to do that. It's just a ridiculous notion to try to teach somebody all of these skills, you know, and have them come back 6 months later and say, okay, fine, now you can dance in front of a person. So one of the things you actually have to learn as a dancer is to learn how to dance badly, because you're going to want to dance. And so you're going to have to accept, since you want to dance, and since anyone wants to dance, I mean, you see the music, you want to move to it, you're not able to handle it. Well, get on that floor and follow a few simple rules, and then get off that floor, and at least you've done something very, very fundamental. Do not do this only. Do not only do this, is what I'm saying. Try, finding somebody who understands movement and understands individual movement before they understand even how couples move, and get them to help you. You have to understand also that put yourself in the shoes of a dance teacher today who's teaching social dances, and compare that to a dance teacher who's teaching ballerines how to do the arabesque. The ballerinas are 8 years old, 9 years old. They see things and they immediately pick it up like that. It's like I'm teaching a language to a kid that age. They immediately see it, they immediately pick it up. The teacher of social dances is picking up a body and a brain that have been habituated over the course of the last, call it 25, 30 years. They're more in a role of therapist than they are in the role of an educator. They are there to break certain habits and reinstill new ones. You're in fact going to therapy more than you are going to learn something at first. You're there to break some of the neurotic patterns that you've got in your body, which compel you to do things the way you do them now, and which you yourself find of little use to dance. Since you want to learn how to dance, you have to admit that you don't know how to dance, and you've also got to admit at the same time that the reason you don't know is because you've got bad habits. Let's start from the individual point of view. I'm going to get into it eventually. I have a video that's made and I'll post it, but after this it's about the individuality of dance, and so you have to learn some individual skills. Also realize that if you're going to start learning tango, by the very nature of your human spirit, you're going to get a little bit competitive about it. And so I would actually suggest that at first, don't sign up to a class. Don't sign up to a class for a couple of months. Sign up to individual courses with a teacher of the opposite sex, and get familiar with some aspects, and essentially get to a certain stage where you are autonomous. And that stage doesn't really take that long. I'm not talking about complete autonomy of every single axis and things like that, but at least you won't get into visual aesthetics. You won't be able to see what you're doing, and you won't be able to see what somebody who's bad at this is doing as well. You'll be able to feel what's supposed to be happening, and the teacher is there to help you learn that. It may seem like it's a more expensive proposition. Evidently it is. But I think that your first concern should be about value and not cost. The value of learning alone at first is much greater than learning in a class. Also, it's very discouraging to learn in a class and to take a risk with the prof, because essentially you're not sure if you're going to learn the lesson. You're going to learn habits from your partners. The ones that you're going with are going to be the ones that are basically, imposing their will upon you, if that's how a typical classroom is run. At least with a prof, there you're very much the focus of the attention, and the idea is to make you as autonomous as possible. Another thing to keep in mind now, we've spoken about individuality, and trying to stay out of a competitive, situation. To learn where dance comes from, and to learn it, philosophically. I don't really mean philosophically to the extent that you should fully understand philosophy, but evidently the music is what is very important. So you need to learn the four aspects of music by singing the music, by repeatedly singing the music. The music you should start with, the most pedagogical music to start with, is Los Tubatangos. I'm not telling anybody here that it's the best music to dance to, but it's clear that that tuba and those flutes and the instruments, the guitar, combine to be, first of all, very joyful, but also extremely obvious. Extremely obvious in all the four aspects of music. The time is clearly defined with that tuba. The bass line, you know, the locomotion accents are very, very clear. The nuances are so rich in tuba tango. In fact, you could say it's a little bit like a cake, an American cake. It's too rich. There's too much richness going on, and so there's too much to dance to. But you know, that's again is pedagogically a very interesting thing. So I recommend learning to sing Los Tubatangos. Look them up on YouTube. I'll put a link below. There are some bands all over the world that imitate them, and it's not an innocent thing to see all these Tubatangos bands show up, various milongas. They are extremely joyful. So I recommend you start learning to sing that, to learn the four aspects of music and of dance. They share three, right? The two share three in their time, accents, and nuances. And at the same time, you know, you can learn to move using that and humming that. It brings a lot of joy to your life. Or another composer to consider is Canaro. Canaro is really something else. And you'll see that there's a distinctive difference between Canaro and Los Tubatangos, simply in the sophistication of it. And that same sophistication, you know, less intense perhaps, is like D'arrienzo. D'arrienzo is about time. He's called El Rey del Compás, king of time, for a reason. But I find that it's actually his subtle accents. They're subtle accents. It's kind of a contradiction, but no, he's got subtle accents that really show up and shine. So those are the three. Start with those three, sing them often, and you're well on your way to learning all about tango very, very quickly. As well as, you know, if you integrate that with courses with the teacher at the beginning. And if you learn how to assume your own axis by, you know, look at some of my videos, and you'll see what it is to learn an axis. And then afterwards, dance is just something that you do as you walk along the dance floor of life. It'll come to you very, very naturally. You'll be very well prepared.